It was a Tuesday morning when the phone rang an unknown number. I don't usually answer, but something inside me said I should. The voice on the other end was kind, but what he told me chilled my blood. "Mrs. Miller? My name is Charles, the owner of Miller's Watch Repair. I have something that belonged to your husband, something I think you need to see urgently." My heart stopped. Frank had died 6 months ago, and the only thing he had left me was his gold watch, the same watch I now couldn't find anywhere. I sat on the edge of the bed, feeling my legs tremble. "Mr. Charles, what watch are you talking about?" My voice came out broken, but I tried to maintain my composure. "A gold watch, ma'am, with the initials FM engraved on the back. Your son and daughter-in-law sold it to me 3 days ago, but when I opened it to repair the mechanism, I found something they didn't know was there, something I believe you need to see in person." The words repeated in my head like a painful echo. David and Valeria had sold Frank's watch, my watch, the only inheritance my husband had left me after 45 years of marriage. I felt the room begin to spin. "Mr. Charles, that watch wasn't theirs to sell. It was mine." "I know, ma'am. That's why I'm calling you. I think there's something deeper here, something your family didn't understand. Can you come to my shop this afternoon?" I hung up the phone with trembling hands. I walked over to the dresser where I kept the few valuable things I had left. I opened the top drawer, the very one where I had put the watch the last time I wore it. Empty. Completely empty. How could I have been so foolish? How had I not noticed sooner? I remembered the last time I saw Frank with that watch. It was a Sunday morning. I was making coffee in the kitchen when he came up behind me and hugged me. He was wearing the watch as always. "Beatrice, my love," he'd said, "this watch has been with me since we got married. When I'm gone, I want you to keep it. It's not just a watch. It's the time we've lived together. Every second it ticked was a second by your side." I had smiled and told him not to talk about such things, that we still had many years ahead of us. But he insisted, "Promise me you'll always keep it. It's worth more than you can imagine." I promised him, as I always did. Now, 6 months after his death, that promise had been broken. Not by me, but by our own son. I dressed in the green dress that Frank loved to see me in. If I was going to reclaim what was mine, I would do it with dignity. I arrived at Miller's Watch Repair at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Charles was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. "Mrs. Miller, I'm glad you came. I have the watch here, but before I show it to you, I need to ask you something. Did your husband ever mention that there was something special about this watch, something beyond its sentimental value?" I shook my head. Frank was a reserved man, but he never hid anything important from me. Or so I thought. Charles disappeared into the back of the shop and returned with a small box. Inside was Frank's watch, but there was also something else. A tiny key, very small, and a folded piece of paper. "Your husband was a very clever man, ma'am. He had created a false bottom in the watch. When I opened it for repair, this fell out. The paper was in Frank's handwriting. I immediately recognized his careful script. Beatrice, if you are reading this, it means something has happened to me, and someone has tried to take from you what is yours. This key opens something that only you should know about. Go to the City Trust Bank, the downtown branch. Ask for safe deposit box number 1247. Tell them you are the sole beneficiary. The documents are in order. I love you, and this is so you will never have to depend on anyone." My hands shook as I read my husband's words. He had planned all of this. He knew something like this might happen. Charles watched me with a sympathetic expression. "Your husband paid me in advance for the repair work over a year ago. He told me that if anyone other than you ever brought in this watch, I was to open it and call you immediately. He was a very forward-thinking man." I took the watch, the key, and the paper, placing them in my purse as if they were the most precious treasures in the world, which, in reality, they were. "Thank you, Charles. You don't know what this means to me." He smiled. "I liked your husband very much. We spoke several times when he came in for maintenance on the watch. He always spoke of you with such love. He said you were the strongest woman he knew, but that the world sometimes makes strong people feel weak. He wanted to make sure you never felt that way." I left the watch shop with my heart pounding. Frank had been looking out for me even after his death, but I also felt a mixture of pain and betrayal. My own son had sold the one thing his father had left me, without asking, without considering me, as if I were invisible in my own home. I arrived home with Frank's watch clutched against my chest. The house was quiet, but I knew David and Valeria were in the living room watching television. They always did the same thing after lunch. I went up to my room, trying not to make a sound. I needed to process everything I had discovered before confronting them. I sat on the bed I had shared with Frank for so many years. The watch was still ticking perfectly. Tick, tick, tick. As if nothing had happened, as if it hadn't been betrayed by the hands of my own son. I read Frank's note again. His handwriting, always so careful, calmed me and gave me strength at the same time. He had thought of everything, even the possibility that our son would fail me in this way. I remembered how things had changed after the funeral. At first, David and Valeria seemed concerned about me. They would visit, bring me food, make sure I was okay. But slowly, their visits became more frequent and their intentions less clear. "Mom, this house is too big for you alone," David had said one afternoon. "Why don't you come live with us? You can sell the house and use that money to be more comfortable." I had immediately rejected the idea. This house held 40 years of memories. Every corner held a piece of Frank. I couldn't leave. I didn't want to leave. But David insisted, and so did Valeria. "Beatrice, we just want what's best for you. At your age, living alone can be dangerous. What if you fall? What if you get sick?" Their words sounded concerned, but there was something in their eyes I didn't like, a coldness I hadn't seen before, as if they were calculating something. Then the more invasive visits began. Valeria started going through my things. "I'm just organizing, Beatrice. You have so much clutter." But I knew she wasn't organizing. She was taking inventory. David started asking me questions about my finances. "Mom, are all your documents in order? Do you know where your will is? Do you have any life insurance?" Questions a concerned son might ask, but coming from him, they sounded different. One afternoon, about a month ago, I overheard them talking in the kitchen. They thought I was asleep in my room, but I had come down for a glass of water. "Dad's gold watch must be worth a fortune," Valeria whispered. "Could you sell it and use the money for the business?" "I don't know, Val. It's the only thing he left Mom. She'll notice." "David, your mom is getting old. She forgets things lately. We can tell her we took it to be repaired. By the time she remembers, we'll have solved our money problems. And if she asks about it, we'll buy her a cheap replica. She'll never know the difference." Oh. I stood there, paralyzed, listening to my daughter-in-law plan how to steal from me. And the worst part was that my own son was considering the idea. I went back to my room in silence, my heart broken. That night, I put the watch in my dresser drawer, thinking it would be safe there. How foolish I had been. How blind I had been for all these months. Now, sitting on my bed with the recovered watch, I understood everything. They hadn't sold the watch out of desperation. They had sold it out of greed. They had planned to steal the one thing Frank had left me, and they had done it with a coldness that chilled me to the bone. I heard footsteps on the stairs. David was coming up to my room. I quickly put the watch, the key, and the note in my purse. "Mom, are you okay? I heard you come in, but you didn't come down to say hello." I opened my bedroom door. David was standing there with that fake smile I had come to recognize in recent months. "I'm fine, son. I was just resting. Did you go to the doctor? We saw you leave this morning." "I went to run some errands." It wasn't a lie. I had gone to reclaim what was mine. David nodded, but his eyes scanned my room as if he were looking for something, or verifying that something was still there. "Mom, Valeria and I have been thinking. We think you should seriously consider moving in with us. This house is too much for you." "We've already talked about this, David. I'm not moving." "But Mom, think about it. You could sell the house, invest that money, and live comfortably with us. We would take care of everything." "Everything? Like you took care of your father's watch?" David went pale. For a moment, his mask slipped, and I saw the panic in his eyes. "What watch, Mom?" "Your father's gold watch. The one he left me as my inheritance. The one that's no longer in my dresser." End quote. "Mom, I don't know what you're talking about." "David, don't lie to me. I know you sold it. I know you sold it without telling me anything. I know you thought I was so old and so foolish that I wouldn't notice." My son fell silent. His face shifted from panic to defensiveness. Mom, we just wanted to help. The business is going through a rough patch. We needed the money, and you never wear the watch. We thought you wouldn't miss it. Oh, Ma, wouldn't miss it? It was the only thing your father left me. The only thing I had of him. Mom, don't exaggerate. Dad left you this house, his memories, Your father left me that watch. He put it in my hands the day before he died. He made me promise to always take care of it. And you're telling me I wouldn't miss it. David looked down. Mom, I'm sorry, but it's done. We needed the money. It's done. That's all you have to say? Mom, when the business gets better, we'll buy you another watch, a nicer one. I looked him in the eyes. This man standing before me was no longer my son. He was a stranger. A stranger who had been living in my house for months, planning how to steal from me. David, go downstairs and tell Valeria to come up. Both of you, we need to talk. Mom, there's no need. Now, David. My voice came out with a firmness I hadn't used in years. David flinched and left the room without another word. While I waited, I took the watch out of my purse. I put it on my wrist, where it always should have been, where Frank wanted it to be. I heard footsteps on the stairs. This time, it was 2 pairs of feet. David and Valeria were coming up together. He had surely told her that I knew everything. I stood by the window with my back to them as they entered my room. I wanted them to see what they had done. I wanted them to see a woman who was no longer going to let them treat her as if she were invisible. Beatrice, David told me you're upset about the watch, Valeria said, her voice dripping with that false sweetness I had grown to hate. I turned around slowly. The 2 of them were standing in the doorway of my room, like children caught doing something wrong. Upset? You think I'm upset? My voice was calm, but I felt each word was loaded with a dignity I had forgotten I possessed. Beatrice, we can explain. There's nothing to explain, Valeria. You came into my room, took what wasn't yours, and sold it. The only thing I want to know is if you really thought I was foolish enough not to notice. David and Valeria glanced at each other. In that moment, I understood that they had done exactly that. They had gambled on my weakness, on my age, on my supposed confusion. Do you know what hurts the most? It's not that you sold the watch. It's that you thought you could get away with it. Valeria was the first to break the silence. Her voice no longer had its usual false sweetness. Now it sounded irritated, as if I were the one in the wrong. Beatrice, don't be so dramatic. It was just an old watch. We have expenses, we have responsibilities. The business is in a crisis, and we needed that money. Just an old watch. I repeated her words slowly, feeling each syllable wound me. That's what it was to you. Just an old watch. End of creasing. David took a step closer. Mom, Valeria's right. We have a company to maintain, employees to pay. You're retired now. You don't have those worries. I looked at both of them, my son and my daughter-in-law, 2 people who had shared my table for years, who had received my affection, my food, my care when they were sick. And there they were, justifying why they had the right to steal from me. And that gives you the right to take what isn't yours? Valeria sighed with exasperation. Beatrice, let's be realistic. You live in a house that's too big for you. You don't work, you don't produce anything. We're the ones who have to carry the future of this family. Her words hit me like slaps. I don't work, I don't produce anything, as if the 45 years I spent caring for Frank, raising David, maintaining this home, meant nothing. As if my entire life had been useless. Ah, I see. Since I don't produce anything, you have the right to take the little I have. Ah. That's not it, Mom. David tried to sound conciliatory. It's just, well, you've already lived your life. We're just starting ours. It's normal for the older generation to help the younger one. Help? You call theft help? Valeria rolled her eyes. We didn't steal anything, Beatrice. The watch was just sitting there, collecting dust. At least we put the money to productive use. A productive use, yes. For the business, to make more money, to secure your future. And my future? My security? That doesn't matter? David sighed. Mom, you already have your pension. You have this house. You don't need more. Who decides what I need? You do? Beatrice, let's be practical. Valeria crossed her arms. You're not going to get married again. You're not going to have more children. You're not going to start a new life. For you, that watch was just a memory. For us, it was an opportunity. Her words pierced my soul. It was true that I wasn't going to get married again. It was true that I wasn't going to have more children. But that didn't mean my life was over. It didn't mean I didn't have the right to keep the memories of the only life I had ever had. You know what, Valeria? You're right. I'm not going to get married again. But that watch wasn't just a memory. It was proof that someone loved me. It was proof that my life meant something to someone. Mom, Dad loved you very much. That will never change. You don't need a watch to remember that. David, you don't understand. When you get old, when you become invisible to the world, it's those little things that remind you that you were once important to someone. Valeria snorted. Oh, Beatrice, you're so dramatic. You're not invisible. You're here. You're fine. You have family. I have family? A family that comes into my room and takes what they want? A family that decides for me what I need and what I don't? A family that lies to my face? We didn't lie to you, David said. We just didn't tell you because we knew you would react like this. Like this? Overreacting? Making a drama out of something that wasn't that important? I was silent for a moment. I looked at my son. He really believed what he was saying. He really thought my feelings weren't valid, that my pain wasn't important. David, do you remember when you were 8 years old and you lost your favorite soccer ball? What does that have to do with anything? Do you remember how you cried? Do you remember how your father and I moved heaven and earth to find it? Do you remember how we went out and searched the whole neighborhood until we found it? Yes, I remember. Why do you think we did that? It was just a ball. We could have bought you another one. David fell silent. We did it because it was important to you. Because we understood that ball meant something special to you. It didn't matter that to us it was just a ball. To you, it was your treasure. Mom, it's not the same. Why isn't it the same? Because now it's my turn to suffer? Because now I'm the one who lost something important? Valeria sighed impatiently. Beatrice, are you comparing a childhood situation to an adult one? We have real responsibilities. And my feelings aren't real? Your feelings are based on the past. Ours are based on the future. I stared at her. This woman had entered my family, eaten at my table, received my affection for years, and there she was, telling me my feelings didn't matter because they were based on the past. Valeria, do you know what the difference is between you and me? What? I built my past with love. You're building your future with theft. Her face turned red with anger. How dare you? We are not thieves. Oh no. What do you call taking something that isn't yours without the owner's permission? It's different. We're family. Being family gives you the right to steal? David intervened. Mom, that's enough. What's done is done. We can't turn back time. You're right, David. You can't turn back time. But you can return the watch. How are we supposed to return the watch? We already sold it. Then buy it back. Valeria laughed sarcastically. With what money? We already told you we're in a crisis. With the money you received for selling it. That money has already been used for the business. It's already invested. Then, invest it. It's not that easy, Beatrice. The money is already committed. I looked at them both. They truly didn't understand the magnitude of what they had done. They truly thought they had the right to dispose of my life, my things, my feelings. Do you know what hurts me most about all of this? They remained silent. It's not that you sold the watch. It's that you didn't think to ask me. It's that you assumed my feelings didn't matter. It's that you decided for me what was important and what wasn't. Mom, if we had asked you, you would have said no. And doesn't that tell you something? Doesn't that tell you that maybe you didn't have the right to take it? David lowered his head. For the first time since this conversation began, he seemed genuinely sorry. Mom, I'm sorry. I really am sorry. But we can't change what happened. You're right, David. You can't change what happened. But you can decide what you're going to do now. What do you want us to do? I want you to acknowledge that what you did was wrong. I want you to understand that you hurt me. And I want you to give me my watch back. Valeria sighed. Beatrice, we already told you the money is gone. We can't buy the watch back. Then find a way. And if we can't, I looked her directly in the eye. Then you will have to live with the consequences of what you did. What do you mean? I mean that actions have consequences, and you are going to have to face yours. The silence that followed my words was deafening. David and Valeria looked at each other as if waiting for the other to say something, but neither spoke. Finally, Valeria broke the silence with a bitter laugh. Consequences? What are you going to do, Beatrice? Kick us out of your house? Disown us? Let's be realistic. You need us more than we need you. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut, but this time, instead of hurting me, they gave me a clarity I hadn't had in months. I need you? For what, exactly? For everything, Beatrice. To take you to the doctor when you're sick. To help you with the heavy groceries. To take care of you when you can no longer take care of yourself. Ah, I see. You take care of me in exchange for being able to dispose of my things whenever you please. David intervened quickly. Mom, that's not what Valeria meant. Oh, no? Then explain to me what she meant. She meant that we're a family, that we look after each other. Looking after each other includes stealing? Valeria rolled her eyes again. Beatrice, can you stop using that word? We didn't steal anything. We took something that was in the family and used it for the family's benefit. The family's benefit or your benefit? It's the same thing. No, Valeria, it's not the same thing. Because I am also part of this family, and I wasn't benefited. I was hurt. Beatrice, you don't have the same needs as we do anymore. You don't have to worry about the future. Who says I don't have to worry about the future? Who says I don't have plans? Who says I don't have dreams? Valeria laughed. Dreams? What dreams could you possibly have at your age? I stared at her. This woman truly believed that life ended after 70. She really thought I was just a burden waiting to die. Do you know what my dream was, Valeria? My dream was to spend my final years in peace in the house I built with Frank, surrounded by the love of my family, holding on to the few memories I had left of a life I lived with dignity. And you can do that. How can I do that if you come into my room and take what you want? How can I do that if I can't trust my own family? David came closer and tried to take my hand. Mom, you can still trust us. I pulled my hand away. David, trust is something that is built day by day, and you destroyed it in a single act. We can rebuild it. How? By giving you another chance? Another chance for what? So you can decide again what I need and what I don't? So you can take whatever you want whenever you please? Valeria sighed with exasperation. Beatrice, you're being very dramatic. It was only one time. Only one time. And that makes it less serious? Less final? Valeria, do you have any jewelry that belonged to your mother? Yes, I have her pearl earrings. How would you feel if I went into your room, took those earrings, and sold them to pay for something I needed? That's different. Why is it different? Because my mother is still alive. Ah, so because Frank is dead, what he left me no longer has sentimental value. That's not it. Then what is it? Valeria fell silent. She had no answer because she knew there was no justification for what they had done. You know what bothers me most, Valeria? It's not that you don't understand the sentimental value of things. It's that you pretend not to. I'm not pretending anything. Yes, you are. Because you are a woman. Because you are a wife. Because one day you will be a widow. And when that happens, you will understand exactly what I feel right now. That's not going to happen for many years. I hope not. But when it does, you will remember this conversation, and you will understand that what you did today wasn't just taking a watch. It was taking my dignity. David sat on the edge of my bed. For the first time in the entire conversation, he looked genuinely affected. Mom, I didn't want to hurt you. I really didn't. But you did hurt me, David. I know, and I'm sorry. Are you sorry because you hurt me? Or are you sorry because I found you out? He thought for a moment. I'm sorry because I hurt you. I really am. Yes? Then prove it. How? Give me back my watch. Mom, we already told you we can't. You can't? Or you won't? Valeria intervened again. We can't, Beatrice. The money is already invested in the business. If we pull it out now, we lose everything. Then you'll have to decide what's more important. Your business or your family. Why does it have to be one or the other? Because you made it one or the other when you decided to sell my watch without asking me. David stood up. Mom, please. There has to be another solution. What? I don't know, but something. David, the solution is simple. Give me back what is mine. What if we buy you another watch? A nicer one, more modern. I looked at him with deep sadness. He really didn't understand. After this whole conversation, he still didn't get that it wasn't about the watch itself. It was about what it represented. David, if I burned all of your childhood photos, would you be happy if I bought you a new album filled with pictures of other children? No, of course not. Why not? Because those photos have sentimental value. They can't be replaced. Exactly. And your father's watch can't be replaced either. Valeria Sahil. All right, Beatrice. We understand the watch had sentimental value, but it's already sold. We can't change that. The only thing we can do is move on. Move on as if nothing happened? As a family that makes mistakes but forgives each other. Valeria, forgiveness is something that is asked for, not something that is demanded. We are asking for your forgiveness. No, you're asking me to settle, to accept what you did, and to carry on as if nothing happened. What else do you want us to do? I want you to understand that some things can't be undone. I want you to understand that some wounds can't be healed with words. And I want you to understand that from now on, things are going to be different. Different how? Different because I will no longer be the foolish old woman you can manipulate. Different because you will no longer be able to make decisions for me. Different because you will no longer have free access to my life, my home, my things. David became alarmed. Mom, what are you saying? I'm saying you are going to have to earn my trust again, and that won't be easy. How can we earn your trust? That is a question you two are going to have to answer. I am no longer going to tell you what to do. I am no longer going to make things easy for you. From now on, you are going to have to prove to me that I deserve your respect. Valeria crossed her arms. And in the meantime, what? You're going to punish us as if we were children? I'm not going to punish you, Valeria. I'm simply going to protect myself. Protect yourself from what? From you hurting me again. Silence filled everything again. The three of us stood there in my room, knowing that something had changed forever, that things would never go back to the way they were, because for the first time in months, I had stopped being the victim, and they had stopped being the ones in control. I think it's time for you to leave, I said finally. You're kicking us out? I'm asking you to leave for today. I think we've talked enough. David and Valeria headed for the door. Before leaving, David turned around. Mom, this can't end like this. David, this will end however you decide it ends. And with that, they left. I closed the door behind them and stood alone in my room. I stood alone in my room, listening to David and Valeria's footsteps descending the stairs. I heard the front door close with more force than necessary. Then, total silence. I sat on my bed and took Frank's watch out of my purse again. I held it in my hands, feeling its familiar weight. It was still working perfectly, as if the last few days hadn't happened, as if it hadn't been betrayed by hands that should have protected it. But something had changed in me. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like a woman who had found her voice, a woman who had said, enough. I remembered the words Charles had told me at the watch shop. Frank had told him that I was the strongest woman he knew. At that moment, I hadn't felt strong. For months, I had felt invisible, manipulated, vulnerable. But now I understood what Frank had seen in me. Strength isn't always about shouting or fighting. Sometimes, strength is knowing when to stop letting people hurt you. I took the small key that Charles had given me along with Frank's note. I held it up to the light coming through the window. It was so small, but according to my husband's words, it would open something important. Go to the City Trust Bank, the downtown branch. Ask for safe deposit box number 1247. Frank had planned this. He had known the day might come when I would need to be independent. He had known the day might come when my own family would fail me. I looked at the watch. It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The bank would be closed until morning. But it didn't matter. I had waited 6 months without knowing this safe deposit box existed. I could wait one more night. That evening, I didn't go down for dinner. I wasn't hungry, and I didn't want to risk running into David and Valeria if they decided to return. From my window, I saw them arrive around 8 o'clock in the evening. I heard them talking in the living room, but I couldn't make out the words. Around 9, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Someone was coming up to my room. The steps were light. Valeria knocked softly on the door. "Beatrice, can I come in?" "No, please. I need to talk to you. We've talked enough for today. Beatrice, please. Just 5 minutes." "No, Valeria." I heard her stand outside my door for several minutes. Then her footsteps moved away. An hour later, I heard other steps. This time it was David. "Mom, it's me. We can talk tomorrow, David." "Mom, please. I don't like things being left like this. I didn't like you selling my watch either, but it happened." "Mom, don't be like that." "Like what? Firm? Decisive? With boundaries?" "So cold, David." "I'm not being cold. I'm being clear." He was quiet for a moment. "Don't you love me anymore, Mom?" That question pierced my heart. "David, loving you and allowing you to hurt me are two different things. I don't want to hurt you. But you did. It was a mistake. It was a decision, and decisions have consequences. What are the consequences going to be? We'll see about that tomorrow." "What are you going to do tomorrow?" "I'm going to start taking care of myself." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm no longer going to wait for you to take care of me. I'm going to make my own decisions about my life." "Mom, you're scaring me." "I'm not scaring you, David. I'm warning you." After that, I heard no more footsteps. The house fell silent. I couldn't sleep that night. Not from anxiety or fear, but from a strange sense of freedom I hadn't felt in years, as if I had been carrying a weight I didn't know I had and had finally set it down. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I got up, showered, and dressed in my best dress, the red one Frank had given me for our last anniversary. If I was going to discover what my husband had left for me, I wanted to do it feeling like the woman he had loved. I had breakfast alone in the kitchen. David and Valeria were still asleep. I left a note on the table. "Out running errands. Beatrice." The City Trust Bank opened at 9. I arrived at 5 minutes after 9. "Good morning. I'm here about a safe deposit box. Number 1247. The teller, a young woman with brown hair and a kind smile, asked for my identification and the key. "Mrs. Miller, yes, you are registered here as the sole authorized beneficiary. Your husband, Frank, opened this box 2 years ago. Is this the first time you've accessed it?" "Yes, it's the first time." "Very well, please follow me." She led me to a small, quiet, private room. She brought in a metal box and left it on the table. "Take all the time you need, ma'am. When you're finished, ring the bell, and I'll come assist you." She left, closing the door behind her. I was alone with the box Frank had prepared for me. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside were several envelopes. The first had my name written on it in Frank's careful script. I opened it and began to read. "My dearest Beatrice, if you are reading this letter, it means something has happened to me, and someone has tried to take from you what is yours. I knew our son. I love him deeply, but I also know his weaknesses, and I know Valeria. I knew that if something happened to me, they might try to convince you that you depend on them. I want you to know that is not the case." My eyes filled with tears. Frank knew me better than I knew myself. He had predicted exactly what had happened. "In this box, you will find everything you need to be independent. There are documents for a savings account I opened in your name. There is the real will, not the one I left with the family lawyer. And there is something else." I kept reading, my heart pounding. "Beatrice, for all these years, I secretly saved money. Not much each month, but consistently. It was for your security, so you would never have to depend on anyone, so you could live with dignity no matter what happened." I searched the box and found a thick envelope with bank documents. I reviewed them quickly. Frank had been depositing money into an account in my name for 15 years. The final amount left me breathless. It was enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life. It was enough to be independent. It was enough to never again have to tolerate being treated as if I were invisible. There was another envelope with a deed. Frank had bought a small house on the beach, 2 hours from the city. It was also in my name. "This house is for you if you ever decide you need a new beginning. It is completely paid for. It's small but comfortable. It has a garden where you can plant the flowers you love so much. It's yours for when you need it. There was one last, smaller envelope. I opened it, and inside was a photo of us from our wedding day. On the back, Frank had written, "For the bravest woman I know. Don't let anyone make you believe otherwise." I sat in that small bank room crying, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of gratitude. Gratitude for a man who had loved me so much that he had planned for my freedom even after his death. Frank had known this day might come. He had known the moment might arrive when I would need to choose between my dignity and my family, and he had given me the means to choose my dignity. I put all the documents in my purse, rang the bell, and the teller returned. "Is everything all right, ma'am?" "Everything is perfect. Do you wish to keep the safe deposit box?" "No, I don't need it anymore." I walked out of the bank feeling like a different woman. I was not the same Beatrice who had walked in that morning. I was a woman with options, a woman with power, a woman who could make her own decisions. I walked through the downtown streets, thinking about everything I had discovered. Frank hadn't just left me money, he had left me freedom. He had left me the ability to live without fear, without manipulation, without having to tolerate disrespect, but he had also left me with a decision to make. What was I going to do with this new reality? When I got home, David and Valeria were in the living room waiting for me. They looked anxious, as if they had been arguing since they woke up. "Mom, where were you?" "You had us worried," David said, standing up. "I was running some errands." Just like the note I left said. "What kind of errands?" Valeria asked suspiciously. "Personal errands." I headed for the stairs to go up to my room, but David intercepted me. "Mom, we need to talk. Valeria and I were thinking all night about what happened yesterday." "Oh, really? And what conclusion did you come to?" "We came to the conclusion that we need to find a solution that works for everyone. For everyone, or for you." Valeria approached. "Beatrice, we want to compensate you for the watch. We found a way to pay you back the money." "How?" "We can borrow it from Valeria's parents," David said. "We'll buy you another watch, just like the one we sold." I looked at them both. They still didn't get it. After everything that had happened, they still thought this was about the money. "David, Valeria, please sit down." They sat on the sofa, looking at me expectantly. I remained standing. "Do you really think this is about the money?" "It's not about the money?" Valeria asked. "No, Valeria, it's not about the money." "Then what is it about?" "It's about respect. It's about trust. It's about you treating me as if I were invisible in my own house." David frowned. "Mom, we respect you. You respect me? Coming into my room without permission is respecting me. Taking my things without asking is respecting me. Deciding for me what I need is respecting me. Mom, it was an error in judgment." "We've already admitted that." "An error in judgment, David? You planned this. I heard you talking in the kitchen a month ago. I heard when Valeria told you that you could tell me you had taken the watch to be repaired." Valeria turned pale. "You heard us?" "I heard you. And I knew in that moment that my own family was planning to rob me. Do you know what that feels like?" "Beatrice, we didn't." "Valeria, don't lie to me anymore. Don't pretend anymore. I know exactly what you thought of me. I know exactly how you see me. How do we see you? As a burden. As an old woman who is no longer useful for anything. As someone whose opinions don't matter. As someone who can be easily manipulated." David stood up. "Mom, that's not true." "It's not true? Then explain to me why you never asked me if you could sell the watch." "Because we knew you would say no." "Exactly. You knew I would say no, but you decided to do it anyway. Doesn't that tell you something about what you really think of my opinion?" Valeria sighed. "Beatrice, sometimes adults have to make tough decisions." "Adults? And what am I?" Well, you don't have the same responsibilities anymore." "Ah, so because I don't have the same responsibilities, I also don't have the same rights?" "That's not it." "Then what is it, Valeria? Explain it to me. Explain to me why you had the right to dispose of my property." She fell silent. She had no explanation because there was no valid explanation. "Do you know what hurts me the most about all of this? It's not that you sold the watch. It's that you assumed I was so weak, so useless, so dependent on you, that you could do whatever you wanted with me." "Mom, we never thought you were useless," David said. "No? Then why didn't you consult me?" "Why? Because we thought you would worry unnecessarily. Worry unnecessarily about my own inheritance? Mom, the business was in crisis. We needed the money urgently. There was no time for long discussions. David, how long would it have taken you to say, Mom, the business is in trouble. Could you help us by selling Dad's watch? You would have said no. Maybe. Or maybe I would have said yes. But we'll never know, because you decided that my opinion didn't matter. Valeria stood up. All right, Beatrice. We understand you're upset. We understand we made a mistake. What do you want us to do to fix it? Do you really want to fix it? Yes. Or do you want me to just shut up and go back to being the submissive old woman I was before? We want things to go back to normal. Valeria, normal was you disrespecting me and me allowing it. That normal is over. David came closer. Mom, what are you saying? I'm saying that things are going to change. What kind of changes? For starters, you will no longer have free access to this house. If you want to come over, you will have to call first and ask for my permission. You're forbidding us from coming to your house? I am asking you to respect me enough to ask before you enter. But this has been our home for years. No, David, this is my house. You have been welcome here for years, but being welcome is a privilege, not a right. Valeria crossed her arms. And if we don't agree to these new rules? Then you will have to decide what is more important, your pride or your relationship with me. Beatrice, you're being very extreme. Extreme, Valeria? Asking you to treat me with respect is extreme? No, but cutting off access to the house is extreme. Do you know what was extreme? Coming into my room and robbing me. That was extreme. David sat down again, running his hands over his face. Mom, this is getting out of control. No, David, this is being brought under control. For the first time in months, I am in control of my own life. What else is going to change? You will no longer make decisions about my life without consulting me. You will no longer assume you know what's best for me. You will no longer treat me as if I were a burden. Mom, we never treated you like a burden. No? Then why did you suggest I sell the house every time you came to visit? Why did every conversation end with you telling me I should move in with you? Because we were worried about you. No, David. Because you wanted to control me. Because you wanted access to my assets. Because you wanted me to be completely dependent on you. Valeria stood up again. All right, Beatrice. I think you need some time to calm down. When you're ready to be reasonable, we can talk. Be reasonable, Valeria? Defending my rights is not being unreasonable. Defending your rights is fine, but punishing us as if we were children is not fine. I'm not punishing you. I'm educating you. Educating us? Yes. I am teaching you that your actions have consequences. I am teaching you that you can't treat me however you want without repercussions. David sighed. And how long is this education going to last? Until you learn the lesson. What's the lesson? That I deserve respect. That my opinion matters. That I am not your property. Valeria picked up her purse. Come on, David. It's obvious your mother is in no condition to have an adult conversation. I laughed. An adult conversation? Valeria, an adult conversation includes admitting when you're wrong. It includes apologizing sincerely. It includes making real changes to repair the damage you've caused. We already apologized. No, you asked me to forgive you. Those are two very different things. David stood up. Mom, this can't go on like this. We are family, David. Being family doesn't mean you can abuse me. Being family means respecting each other. And if we can't reach an agreement, I looked him directly in the eyes. Then we will each go our own way. Are you willing to lose your family over a watch? David, you were the ones who were willing to lose my trust over a watch. I am just defending what's left of my dignity. They headed for the door without another word. Before leaving, David turned around. Mom, I hope you reconsider. David, I hope you reconsider. And they left. I stood alone in my living room, but for the first time in months, I didn't feel abandoned. I felt free. The following days passed in a strange but liberating silence. David and Valeria didn't come by, didn't call. It was as if they had decided to give me the silent treatment, expecting me to give in first. But for the first time in years, the silence didn't bother me. On the contrary, it gave me space to think, to plan, to imagine what I wanted the rest of my life to look like. I took out the documents Frank had left me and studied them carefully. The beach house was small but beautiful. The photos included with the deed showed a picturesque cottage with a garden that opened directly onto the sea. Frank had chosen well. The bank account had enough money for me to live comfortably without depending on anyone. I could stay in this house if I wanted, I could move to the beach if I preferred, I could travel, I could do whatever I pleased. For the first time in decades, I had real options. On Wednesday afternoon, I decided to call a taxi and go see the beach house. I needed to see it with my own eyes. The drive took exactly 2 hours. The driver, an older man named Louis, was talkative and friendly. "On vacation, ma'am?" "In a way, yes. That's good. At our age, it's important to enjoy life, don't you think?" "You're right, Louis. Very right." When we arrived at the address, I couldn't believe my eyes. The house was perfect. Small, yes, but perfect for one person. It had 2 bedrooms, a living room that opened directly onto the garden, and a kitchen with windows overlooking the sea. "It's beautiful," I told the driver. "Is it yours?" "Yes, it's mine." "You're lucky. Living here must be like a permanent vacation." He was right. As I walked through the garden, listening to the sound of the waves, I felt more peaceful than I had in years. Frank had thought of everything. He had chosen a place where I could be happy, a place where I could start over if I needed to. And maybe I did. On the drive back, Louis told me about his own family. "I have 3 children, ma'am. 2 of them visit often, but the middle one, he drifted away when he got married. His wife isn't too fond of us." "And how do you handle that?" "At first, it hurt a lot. But then I understood that you can't force people to love you, not even your own children. True love has to be freely given." His words stayed with me for the rest of the trip. When I got home, there was an unfamiliar SUV parked outside. In the living room was David with a man I didn't know. "Mom, this is Mr. Martinez, our lawyer. We need to talk to you." My heart sped up, but I kept my composure. "What do you need to talk to me about?" Mr. Martinez stood up. He was a young man in an expensive suit, with a smile that didn't inspire confidence. "Mrs. Miller, your son is concerned about your well-being. He has told me that you have been confused lately." "Confused?" "Yes. Making irrational decisions, having episodes of paranoia." I looked at David in disbelief. "You told him I'm confused?" David avoided my gaze. "Mom, the other day you said things that didn't make sense. You accused your own family of stealing from you, because you did steal from me." The lawyer intervened. "Ma'am, as your son tells me, you are accusing your family of selling your belongings without authorization. But he explains to me that you are a close-knit family that makes decisions jointly for the benefit of everyone." "Joint decisions? When did you consult me before selling the watch?" "Ma'am, sometimes older individuals can misinterpret normal situations." "Mr. Martinez, how old are you?" 32, ma'am." 32. And you dare to tell me, a woman of 74 years, that I misinterpret normal situations? "Ma'am, it's not about age. It's about..." "About what? My supposed confusion? My supposed paranoia?" David finally spoke. "Mom, we just want to help you. Help me by bringing a lawyer to have me declared incompetent." "No one said anything about declaring you incompetent. Then why is the lawyer here?" The lawyer cleared his throat. "Mrs. Miller, your son is considering requesting a psychiatric evaluation to ensure your well-being." "A psychiatric evaluation to ensure my well-being? Or to ensure yours?" "Mom, please." "David, do you really think I'm crazy?" "I don't think you're crazy. I think you're confused." "Confused about what?" "About what happened with the watch. About our conversation the other day. About everything?" I sat down in my favorite armchair, the one where Frank and I had spent so many afternoons talking, planning our future, the armchair from which I had watched David grow up. "Mr. Martinez, may I ask you a few questions?" "Of course, ma'am." "Do you believe a person of 74 years has the right to decide about her own belongings?" "Well, yes, as long as she is in full mental capacity." "And do you believe that defending my rights means I am not in full mental capacity?" "Not necessarily, but..." "Mr. Martinez, my son told you that they stole a watch from me. Is that true or false?" David tensed up. Mom. David let the lawyer answer. Mr. Martinez, my son told you that he and his wife sold my watch without my permission. The lawyer glanced nervously at David. Well, he explained to me that they made a family decision. A family decision without including the owner of the object. Does that seem normal to you? Ma'am, as I understand it, you live together and… No, Mr. Martinez. They do not live with me. They visit me. This is my house. Mom, please, don't complicate things. Complicate things, David? Calling things by their proper name is complicating things? I stood up and walked to my desk. I took out the documents Frank had left me. Mr. Martinez, could you tell me if these documents are in order? I handed him the papers for the bank account and the deed to the beach house. The lawyer reviewed them carefully. His expression gradually changed from condescending to surprised. Ma'am, these documents are perfectly in order. They are quite substantial. What do you mean by substantial? I mean that you are a woman of considerable resources, financially independent. David came closer. What documents are those, Mom? They are the documents your father left me. The documents I found because you sold my watch. What do you mean? I mean that your father knew this could happen, that he knew you might try to manipulate me, and he left me the means to be independent. I briefly told him about the watch, the watchmaker, the safe deposit box. David grew paler with every word. Mr. Martinez gathered the documents and returned them to me. Mrs. Miller, it is clear that you are in perfect mental condition, and it is clear that you have the resources to live independently. David, I believe there has been a misunderstanding. Your mother does not need any kind of evaluation. David was silent. His plan had completely failed. Mr. Martinez, how much do I owe you for the consultation? Don't worry, ma'am. There's no charge. I insist. No, really. No service was rendered. He left, leaving David and me alone. Mom, I didn't know about those documents. No, you didn't know because you assumed I was a poor, dependent old woman who could be easily manipulated. That wasn't it. It wasn't? Then what was it? Why did you bring a lawyer to declare me incompetent? Because I thought you were acting strangely. Strangely? Defending myself is acting strangely? It's just. You've never been this firm before, and that scared you. Yes. David, do you know why I've never been this firm before? Because I never had to be. Because your father protected me. Because your father respected me. Because with your father, I never had to choose between my dignity and my family. David lowered his head. Mom, I'm sorry. Are you sorry because you hurt me? Or are you sorry because your plan didn't work? I'm sorry because I hurt you. I really am. Then prove it. David stood in the middle of the living room as if he didn't know what to do with his hands, with his body, with his shame. How can I prove it, Mom? That is a question you have to answer, David. I'm no longer going to tell you what to do. But give me a hint. Tell me where to start. I looked at him for a long moment. This 42-year-old man in front of me had been my baby, the child I carried in my arms all night when he had a fever, the teenager I helped with his homework, the young man I advised when he fell in love with Valeria. At what point had he become this stranger who believed he had the right to dispose of my life? David, sit down. He sat on the sofa like a child waiting for a scolding. Do you remember when you were 12 years old and you lost your bicycle? Yes? Do you remember what happened? An older kid took it from me at the park. And what did you do? I came home crying. And what did I do? You went out with me to find the kid. We found him, and you told him to give me back my bike. And what else did I do? David thought for a moment. You told me to learn to defend myself, that no one had the right to take what was mine. Exactly. I taught you that defending what is yours isn't being mean. It's being brave. So, David, why do you think it's wrong for me to defend what is mine? It's not wrong, Mom. It's just. I didn't think you would find out. You didn't think I would find out? Or you hoped I wouldn't find out? I hoped you wouldn't find out. Why? Because I knew you would be upset. And that didn't tell you something? The fact that you knew I would be upset didn't make you think that maybe you shouldn't do it? David ran his hands through his hair. Yes, it should have told me something. But you did it anyway. Yes. Why? Because I was desperate. The business was doing badly. We had debts, and I thought you wouldn't understand. You thought I wouldn't understand that you needed money? I thought you wouldn't understand that it was an emergency. David, have I ever denied you help when you really needed it? He remained silent. When you got married and needed money for the down payment on your house, what did I do? You gave me the money. New questions asked. New questions asked. When Valeria was pregnant and then lost the baby and you needed money for medical expenses, what did I do? You gave me the money. New questions asked. So why didn't you ask me this time? David sighed deeply. Because this time it wasn't just some money. It was a lot of money, and I knew you would ask exactly what we needed it for. And that was a bad thing? It wasn't bad, but we were embarrassed. Embarrassed about what? Embarrassed that the business was doing so poorly. Embarrassed about having made bad decisions. Embarrassed about having to ask you for help again. David, you would rather steal from me than be embarrassed? It wasn't stealing, Mom. What do you call taking something that isn't yours without the owner's permission? It was a desperate decision. David, a desperate decision would be to come to me, explain the situation, and ask for help. What you did was a selfish decision. You're right. Do you really think I'm right? Or are you just telling me what you think I want to hear? I really think you're right. So, what are you going to do about it? David thought for several minutes. I could see he was struggling internally, trying to find the right words. I don't know, Mom. I don't know how to fix this. Do you really want to fix it? Yes. Or do you want things to go back to the way they were so you can feel more comfortable? I really want to fix it. All right. Then let's start at the beginning. What's the beginning? The beginning is that you acknowledge what you really did. No excuses, no justifications, no minimizing. David took a deep breath. Okay, Valeria and I came into your room without permission. We took your watch without asking you. We sold it without consulting you. We lied to you about what happened. And when you confronted us, we tried to justify our actions instead of taking responsibility. And how does that make you feel? It makes me feel horrible. It makes me feel like a person I don't like. Why does it make you feel that way? Because I hurt the person who has loved me the most in my life. Because I betrayed the trust of the woman who gave me everything. Because I behaved like a thief. I saw tears in his eyes. They were the first real tears I had seen since this whole ordeal began. David, do you understand why I can't just forgive and forget? Yes, I understand. Do you understand why I need things to change? Yes. Do you understand why I can't trust you like I used to? Yes, I understand. Good. That's the first step. What's the second step? The second step is that you talk to Valeria. You explain to her what you've just understood, and the two of you decide if you're willing to make the necessary changes to rebuild this relationship. What kind of changes? That's for you to decide. But they have to be real changes, not empty promises. David stood up. Can I ask you something, Mom? Of course. Is there any chance things can go back to the way they were? No, David. Things will never go back to the way they were. His face fell. So, have I lost my mom forever? You haven't lost your mom. But you've lost the mom who allowed herself to be disrespected. You've lost the mom who didn't set boundaries. You've lost the mom who always gave in to avoid conflict. And what mom do I have left? You have a mom who loves you, but who loves herself too. You have a mom who will support you when you truly need it, but who won't allow herself to be abused. You have a mom who will respect you if you respect her. Will that mom forgive me? That mom has already forgiven you, David. But that mom will not forget, and she will not let it happen again. David came over and hugged me. It was a different kind of hug. It wasn't the hug of a son who took his mother's love for granted. It was the hug of a man who understood that he had been on the verge of losing something very precious. I love you, Mom. I love you too, David. But loving you doesn't mean letting you hurt me. I understand. I really do. Yes, you really do. He left that afternoon with an expression I hadn't seen in years, a mix of humility and determination, as if he had finally understood that being an adult meant taking responsibility for his actions. That night, I sat on my bed with Frank's watch in my hands. I watched it work. I listened to its constant tick-tock. This small object had triggered a revolution in my life, A revolution that Frank had planned from the beginning. "Thank you, my love," I whispered to the watch. "Thank you for showing me that I am still strong." 3 days later, David returned. This time, he came alone. "Mom, I spoke with Valeria. At first, she didn't understand why you were right. But after a lot of talking, after I explained everything you told me, I think she's starting to get it." "You think?" "She's resisting. She says you're being too dramatic, that you're exaggerating." "And what did you tell her?" "I told her that if she were in your shoes, she would react the same way, or worse." "And what did she say?" "She got angry. She said the comparison isn't valid because she would never let herself be treated like that." Interesting response. "Why?" "Because she admits that I was treated badly, but says she wouldn't have allowed it." David was silent for a moment. "You're right. I hadn't seen that contradiction." "David, is Valeria willing to change?" "I don't know, Mom. Honestly, I don't know." "And what are you going to do if she isn't?" "I don't know that either." "Well, at least you're being honest." "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Of course. What are you going to do with your life now?" I smiled. "I'm going to live it, David. I'm going to live it on my own terms." 2 weeks after that conversation with David, I made a decision that changed everything. I moved to the beach house. It wasn't an impulsive decision. It was a thought. Out, calm, definitive one. The house where I had lived with Frank for 40 years was full of beautiful memories, but it had also become the scene of my own family's betrayal. I needed a new place. A place where I could be the woman Frank always knew I was. The move was surprisingly liberating. I took only the essentials: my clothes, some photos, Frank's favorite books, and of course, his watch. I left everything else in the house. David could sell it if he wanted. I no longer cared. The first day in my new house, I woke up to the sound of the waves. I opened the curtains and saw the sea stretching to the horizon. It was like waking up in a dream. I had breakfast in the garden with Frank's watch on my wrist. "Look where we ended up, my love," I said to the wind. "Exactly where you planned for me to be." David came to visit me on the 3rd day. He arrived in his car, clearly nervous. "Mom, are you really going to stay here?" "Yes, David. This is my home now. But it's so far from everything. What if you need something?" "I'll learn to take care of myself, as I should have done a long time ago." He sat on the small terrace overlooking the sea. "It looks peaceful." "It is peaceful. There's no drama, no manipulation, no people taking my things without permission." "Mom, are you still angry?" "No, David. I'm not angry anymore. I'm at peace. At peace with the decision to put my well-being first. At peace with the decision not to allow myself to be disrespected. At peace with the idea of living alone, but with dignity." David looked out at the sea. "Valeria and I can visit you." "Does Valeria understand now why I moved?" "She's starting to understand." "Starting?" "She says that maybe she overreacted, that maybe she didn't understand how important the watch was to you." "Maybe?" "Mom, Valeria is proud. It's hard for her to admit when she's wrong." "David, I am proud, too. But I learned that pride isn't worth more than dignity." "What does Valeria need to do for you to forgive her?" "She doesn't need me to forgive her, David. She needs to forgive herself. She needs to understand that what she did was wrong. She needs to decide what kind of person she wants to be. And in the meantime? In the meantime, I am going to be happy here, with or without you." That afternoon, after David left, I walked along the beach. It was a small, quiet beach, mostly frequented by local fishermen and a few families from the area. An older woman who lived in the house next door approached me. "You must be the new neighbor. I'm Martha." "Nice to meet you, Martha. I'm Beatrice. Did you come for a few days of vacation?" "No, I've moved here permanently." "How wonderful." "That house needed someone. Your husband used to visit from time to time, but he always looked sad because it was empty." "You knew my husband?" "Of course. Frank was a very kind man. He always asked me how the garden was, if the house was being well maintained. He said that one day his wife would come to live here." "Did he really say that?" "Many times. He said you were a very strong woman, but that the world sometimes didn't let you be. He said this house was for when you were ready to be free." I was speechless. Frank had understood my future better than I did. Would you like to have coffee tomorrow? Martha asked me. I could tell you more about Frank and about the neighborhood. I would love that. That night, I sat on the terrace watching the stars. It was the first time in years that I felt completely in control of my life. I wasn't waiting for someone to arrive. I wasn't worried about what someone might take from my room. I wasn't walking on tiptoes to avoid conflict. I was just being me. The next day, Martha came over for coffee. She told me that Frank used to come every 2 or 3 months to check on the house, that he always spoke of me with so much love and admiration. He said you had sacrificed so much of yourself for the family, that you had been such a good mother and wife that you sometimes forgot to be just Beatrice. He said that? Yes. And he said this house was for when you remembered who you were before you were a mom and a wife. Those words reached my soul. Frank had known me better than anyone. He had seen what I had lost of myself over the years. A week later, David came again. This time, he brought Valeria. They looked uncomfortable, but they had come. Beatrice, Valeria said in a voice I hadn't heard before, a voice without arrogance. I came to apologize. Apologize for what, specifically? For taking your watch without permission. For selling it without consulting you. For treating you as if your feelings didn't matter. And why are you apologizing now? Because David made me understand something. What was that? He asked me how I would feel if his mother-in-law came into my house and sold my mom's earrings to pay her expenses. And how would you feel? Furious, betrayed, disrespected, and I understood that's exactly what we did to you. For the first time since this whole problem began, Valeria seemed sincere. Valeria, do you understand why I moved here? I understand that you needed space. I understand that you couldn't keep living in a place where you had been disrespected. And you understand that this wasn't just about a watch? I understand that it was about so much more. It was about treating you as if you were invisible. It was about assuming we could make decisions for you. It was about not valuing your feelings. I was silent for a moment, observing her. She seemed genuinely sorry. What are you going to do differently now? David spoke first. We are going to respect you. We are going to consult you before making any decision that affects you. We are going to treat you like the independent woman you are. And you, Valeria? I am going to recognize that I didn't understand what it means to grow old with dignity. I am going to stop assuming I know what's best for you. I am going to value your experience instead of dismissing it. Does this mean I can come visit you again? Of course, Mom. But only if you want to. And does it mean you can visit me here? Can we? Valeria asked with hope. You can, but the rules are different now. What rules? The rule is that you treat me like an independent adult who deserves respect. The rule is that you assume nothing about what I need or want. The rule is that you ask before offering an opinion on my life. Those rules seem fair to us, David said. To you too, Valeria? Yes, to me too. That afternoon, after they left, I sat on my terrace with a cup of tea. The sun was setting over the sea, creating a breathtaking spectacle of colors. I took out Frank's watch and held it in my hand. We did it, my love. I made it to where you planned for me to be. The watch continued to mark time. Tick, tick, tick. But now, every second belonged completely to me. I was no longer the vulnerable widow waiting for crumbs of attention from her family. I was Beatrice, a 74-year-old woman who had learned that it's never too late to reclaim your dignity. A woman who had discovered that chosen solitude is far better than disrespectful company. A woman who had found her strength not in shouts or fights, but in firm boundaries and brave decisions. Months later, David and Valeria had become frequent but respectful visitors. They brought food, they stayed for lunch. They told me about their lives, but they no longer tried to decide for me. They no longer assumed they knew what was best for me. The relationship had changed forever. It was no longer the relationship between a vulnerable mother and her controlling children. It was the relationship between adults who respected each other. And that, I finally understood, was exactly what Frank had wanted for me. The freedom to be respected, the freedom to be valued, the freedom to be myself. The watch continued to work perfectly, marking every second of my new life. A life where every moment belonged completely to me. A life lived on my own terms.